Hey everyone, it's Dr. Angela Cudger, and I am the founder of Legacy Holistic Health Institute. Today, we have Leslie Atley with us. Leslie is a board certified health coach, and she has done quite a bit in the space of community-based organizations. Today, that is what we're going to be talking about in terms of health coaching, in addition to a few other things. So if you're joining us live on Facebook, LinkedIn, YouTube, wherever you are, be sure to tell us where you are and be sure to tell us where you're hanging out at. And so I'm going to let Leslie introduce herself, and then we're going to jump right in because we have a lot to cover today. And I really want to be able to get your questions answered during this live stream as well. Leslie, it's a pleasure to have you here with us. How are you today?
I'm doing good, Dr. Cudger. How are you?
I'm doing amazing. I'm so grateful that we get to have this conversation because your background in diversity, equity, inclusion and all the things, community health organizations and things like that. I'm looking forward to this conversation. I think a lot of the health coaches or aspiring health coaches that are out there don't necessarily take this route, or they don't necessarily look at community-based organizations
hmm
for their ability to be able to help in this field. And so
hmm
today, I kind of want to bring them a different spin on this, right? I learn from people that watch these live streams. They say, "Oh my God, I get a lot of learning or a lot of information from those live streams. So I know the classes are amazing," and they're right. But I want I want you to take the opportunity really quickly to just tell us a little bit about how you landed in the space of health coaching. How did health coaching acquire Leslie?
Yeah, so it's so funny. I often tell people I had a health coach. I had an amazing health coach that was a part of my self-discovery. In 2018, I had made some decisions to do some things differently and put myself on the top of my to-do list. First thing I did was I hired a health coach. Her name is Rosalind. And then from there, I started getting a bodyworks person. I was changed my diet, doing all these things. And so right around April-ish, I was like, okay, I'm going to add a therapist to my self-care team. And I was looking for a therapist. And what I found was a flyer for Legacy Holistic Health Institute. And so I often tell people that's the funny part is I wasn't looking for legacy or becoming a health coach. I was actually looking for a therapist. But you had those magic words on that flyer that says scholarship. I had had an amazing
Mhm.
experience with my health coach. And I thought, I could do this. And I filled out the little form. Again, scholarship really struck me. I filled out the little form, had a conversation with you, and next thing I knew, I was enrolled in a 1-year program to become a
Mhm.
health coach. And so I like that you brought in, the other areas of my experience and expertise because I didn't really until like the last year or so kind of really see how they can go together. And once I got into legacy, I absolutely love coaching. I love teaching coaches. I love mentoring coaches. And so now I'm in a place where I see how we can address health disparities, which is something else that I'm passionate about with this gift of health coaching. And so I'm able to kind of bring these pieces into this piece and see how we can move forward to make health coaching available for all, that inclusion,
Mhm.
that diversity, and
Mhm.
that equity. So, yeah, thank you.
You are welcome. And I love the fact that you said that you weren't looking for health coaching, but it kind of found you, right? And so we're kind of at a space here where we know that every medical field needs more diversity, but
hmm
health coaching needs it a lot more than most of the other fields. And it's
hmm
not just the diversity in ethnicities or different ethnic groups or backgrounds,
hmm
but it's also the diversity in gender. right? And
Yes.
so we need more people, right? We need more men. We need more people from diverse backgrounds. I kind of want to talk a little bit, and I know that you're one of those people. Leslie was really, really humble with her introduction, right? So Leslie not only trains for Legacy, but she trains for several different health coach training institutions. In addition to that, she trains for the federal government as well. And she's also a sought after speaker in this space. And so, if you want to have a conversation about diversity, equity, inclusion as it relates to health coaching and health and well being, she's going to be the person, right? She also was one of those individuals who sat on the board for NBHWC's diversity and inclusion board. And so she's definitely one of those people that has had an inside seat to this industry and what this industry can and will become for people of color. And so we're talking about this today, you guys, because we have to create a platform that raises the voice for diversity, for inclusion, and for gender diversification in health coaching. It is so important. And so since I don't see a whole lot of those platforms out there, I created one. All right. And so today, Leslie, I want us to talk about humility. And I know if you're here and you're in the comments and you're watching us, let us know what you think cultural humility means. Okay. I'm not going to even attempt to try to say what it means because I'll probably botch it up or color it with my own with my own meanings. But I want those of you who are here in the comments with us to let us know what you feel like cultural humility means to you. And then I want Leslie to take the opportunity to define that for the audience and how it plays a role in health coaching that doesn't just lead or become goal oriented, but it plays a role in empowering different populations. So, what is cultural and how does it play a role in health coaching and how we diversify health coaching?
Yeah. So working with the VA and helping actually to develop the cultural humility coaching bias and social determinant of health module for the health coaching program for the VA. I really got a better understanding of cultural humility and how it is absolutely essential when it comes to health coaching. I think originally health coaching could have fit like a cookie cutter, right? This works for this person, and this person. Cultural humility looks at our clients or our patients and says, okay, I will self-reflect, be aware, and be open and manage my own stuff so that I can embrace who is sitting in front of me. So cultural humility, it's an ongoing, lifelong process. It's not oh, I took a little course and I checked the box. It's not a 30-minute course. It's not a 90-minute course. It is ongoing. It's who we are. It's us saying, because I care about the other people in this world, I'm willing to embrace them in all their wholeness. Cultural humility taps into what are their beliefs, their values, their religion, their traditions, their language that creates who they are. So I like to say, our culture, a lot of times when people think of culture, they think of race, ethnicity, but culture is huge.
Yeah, they do.
There's the Black church culture. There's the veteran culture. There's Georgia culture. There's, culture is huge. And so one of the things that I share with people is for someone who's going to coach me, you have to understand the culture that I come from in terms of my family and my family traditions, because we like cake for breakfast. And so if you're a staunch health coach, I know cake for breakfast doesn't really sound very health coachy, right? Then you might not know how to embrace me with that habit, with that part that is a part of my family. It's more than just the cake. It's the experience, the relationships that go from generation to generation around that cake, the tradition of having cake for breakfast. And so I don't want to get off topic, but to understand that as a health coach, it's not cookie cutter. So how do you embrace your clients, your patients who have come from a different background, have a different belief, and not just brush it under the rug? Because I think it becomes easier to say, I just want to address it. I just won't touch this. But then you don't embrace me. You don't embrace the fullness of the person in which you're coaching. And you can't be present. You can't offer good coaching qualities and skills if you're not embracing the person that's sitting in front of you in their wholeness. So that's the Leslie version of cultural humility. A lifelong commitment to being embracing and open to other people's beliefs, traditions, cultural understandings, language. And again, it's more than race and ethnicity.
Yeah, way more. And I think we've been, and I can only speak on the USA because that's the culture I grew up in Black American culture, right? And we grow up looking at culture as kind of this finite thing that has to do with how we wear our hair, who we are, like the color of our skin. Some of us are darker, so so within each race there is cultures, and then within that, each gender also has its cultures, right? Black men are a culture, right? They are a culture, right? They have their ways, and so do Black women, and so do Asian women, and so do these different kinds of people. And so it's important that I love what you're saying, and I agree that it's important to blur those lines, to obliterate those lines, and understand that culture is way more than that. It encompasses my traditions, it encompasses my belief systems, it encompasses all the things that empower me. And there's no way that any one coach can ever know every single nuance of someone's culture, right? And so it's so convoluted, it's impossible to know. So we have to carry this sense of openness, right? When we're coaching and helping other people. That's so important as a health coach. That's why one of the questions I asked during the open house, the first open house I did, go back and watch the open house. I asked about people having the capacity to take another person through to their goals, right? Because when we are used to boxing ourselves in and say, this is what culture means to me, when in reality, having a sense of humility about it obliterates those lines. Because, well, this person, I'm sure we've all come across someone of a different race that grew up a completely different way within a whole another culture. And we're like, how did you end up there? And so it's important to obliterate that and keep a sense of humility about it when we're getting to know someone, and especially when we're coaching someone. And to me, that takes a different kind of capacity. And one of the other things that I said was, if you're looking for the learning in a program to give you the capacity to hold someone else through this, then you've already failed. Like you're supposed to bring that with you, and then we give you the foundational knowledge, right? And so it's so important. So I want to talk a little bit about, because you've already started to kind of dig into the VA and their culture, right? Everyone knows veterans have a culture. If you don't know that, oh my God, they have their own culture. And then within them, Different branches of military have their own culture.
Absolutely.
People who
Yeah.
travel by air, people who travel by sea, people who are on land,
Yep.
Air Force, Navy, they each
Yep.
have their own culture. And
Yes.
so I kind of want to expand on that and talk a little bit about how health coaches, because I want people to future pace. So even if they are someone who is an aspiring health coach, or even if they're a health coach and they still haven't, because I find that even when people graduate, they're like, I'm still trying to find my groove. I'm still trying to
Mhm.
figure out who I want to help. There's tons of people to help, right? So we've got
Mhm.
to, so it's important for them to know some different avenues instead of boxing themselves in. So I want to take some time now to talk a little bit about cultures and how they relate to community-based organizations, right? And
Mhm.
so the VA, of course, is a federal-based organization, right?
Mhm.
And people
Mhm.
look, some people assume that the government doesn't do any kind of healthy, they spend a lot of time and effort and resources on health coaching and well-being.
Yes.
So I'm never going to be on anybody's side that thinks that, right? That the government's not trying to, there's a lot happening, right?
Yes. Yeah.
And so I want to talk a little bit about how health coaches can support the efforts of community-based organizations, right? So can we talk a little bit about that?
Yeah. So I think one of the biggest things, Angela, when it comes to health coaches partnering and collaborating with community-based organizations or even faith-based organizations, the first thing is we got to let people know what health coaching is. There is
Mhm.
a lot within the there's a lot in the BIPOC community that they've never heard of health coaching, or they think it's not for me, or those coaches don't look like me, right? So they won't understand how I have to move away from, move more towards plant-based, and you don't want me to have the fried chicken, right? Or you don't want me to have all the rice that might be associated if I'm, from Hispanic or Asian communities, right? So partnering and collaborating with community-based organizations, the first thing is have an elevator speech. Be
Yes.
able to share exactly what the gift of health coaching is, how it supports our community members, how it supports the underserved, the marginalized communities, how it supports our youth, how it supports our seniors, right? Health coaching is for all. So being able to have the conversations with the community-based organizations, with the faith-based organizations, and saying, first and foremost, hey, I offer this service that is pretty amazing. It helps your community members, your members of your church to embrace their health and wellness on their own terms.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't replace the doctor, I partner with. And then
Mm-hmm.
we move forward with what it is they want to do, what it is they want to commit to doing. And
Mm-hmm.
so community-based organizations are usually their mission around being able to take care of the populations in which they serve. So being able to, as a health coach, to partner with those community-based organizations is a win-win. It's a
Yeah.
win for them because they're better able to serve the community members. It's a win for us because we're able to offer this gift to more people. And so right now, I think we're missing the mark
Mm-hmm.
because coaching is happening in how do I want to say it? Not on your community level,
Yeah.
right? But I think we have a great opportunity right now to start making those connections.
Mm-hmm.
You mentioned, we've got 11,000 plus, because, people are still testing, national board
Mm-hmm.
certified health and wellness coaches.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and then those that aren't national board certified. But we have way more people that we can serve with coaching. And a lot
Absolutely.
of those 11,000 are like, I'm not reaching anybody. I can't get any clients. Hey, it's time to partner. It's time to collaborate. It's time
Yeah.
to get out into the community, get out into the field. It's more than just your spas. It's more than just partnering with, doctors. Those are great avenues. I'm not knocking them. But join us in reaching the people who are not going to get to coaching through those avenues.
Yeah. Because they otherwise, right? Because they otherwise they wouldn't know, right? And I think, well, as a health coach, I never thought to go to a spa, but that's a good idea. But it could be that's a good idea. That's a good work environment if you really think about it. But I think it can also be trapping, and I think people choose these kinds of things because they might be comfortable coaching those kinds of people, right?
Mm-hmm.
And although I think that's great, there's just much more need out there.
Mm-hmm.
The need is tremendous when it comes to health and well-being for just the general public in the United States. The need is so great. And so health coaches must first, I think, remember that all of us are here to serve, and then we decide who are we going to serve and in what capacity, right? Because there are other ways besides coaching, but for those who are wanting to empower people, they have to start partnering. They have to start partnering, right?
Yes.
And what we're starting to see happen is where we're not stepping up, these organizations are creating their own pathways, right? They're like, we got to get somebody internal. So let's just train somebody. Okay, you're it. A lot of organizations are doing that now. And then just to kind of put in perspective for the audience, for you guys watching, there are a little over 11,000 board certified health coaches. These are individuals who have graduated from a program legacy that is approved through NBHWC. And then those individuals have taken the opportunity, like Leslie, to sit for their national board certifying exam. Now, we have a little over 100,000 people, graduates, folks who have finished a program. And so you'll see that number of people who take the exam is very small, and so we've got to take this to a different space, right? And so it's important for us to kind of keep that in mind. And the other thing I want to talk about when we're looking in terms of partnering with community-based organizations is the value add that health coaching brings. And I want to talk a little bit about that as well. We have moved to a value-based care model in the United States. If you're not familiar with that, either Leslie, you could explain it, or I'll explain it. If you want to explain it, you can. I think Philip explained it last week, but we can always explain it again this week. Essentially, give me value or get paid less, right? It's a very simple system. I get better, you get paid more. I don't get better, you get reimbursed less. That's value-based instead of service-based, where you give me the service and you just get paid because you rendered the service. No matter how good or bad the service was, that practitioner gets reimbursed or compensated for it. Now we're more in a value-based care model in the United States. I should be getting better if I keep coming to you as someone who's part of my team. If that's not happening, then insurance companies are getting smart. They're like, we're paying for service that's not great. So let's take this to a different level and reimburse less. It saves the insurance company money, and the driving factor is that it drives patient engagement. It makes that patient an active part of their care. That is why we moved to this model. And so it says, hey, they're reimbursing you less. You haven't helped me in the past 5 years as my doctor or my nurse or whatever. It might be best if we saw other people. right? Might be best if I moved on where I could get value somewhere else. And so if that patient or that client back in the driver's seat of their own health and well-being, and then they can find what is the solution to them. But I
Mm-hmm.
want to talk a little bit about the type of value that health coaches bring to the scene when they have pitched and when they are ready to partner. What kinds of value can they bring? Because that's always going to be the question that comes up. How can you help us? Right.
Right.
And so I want to kind of dive into that a little bit. In your experience, what types of people to bring or see that is a need for?
So I think, coaching and partnering with community-based organizations, the value that we're able to bring, or faith-based organizations, or even organizations that are for diverse populations. So whether it's the disabled, right? We're not just talking about race, ethnicity, or even sex. Maybe we're even talking about, the disabled. So being able to connect with those partners, the value that the coach brings is the ability to give their community members, their membership, access to an opportunity to pursue their health and wellness goals, first and foremost. And then two, to have someone be able to sit down and partner with them as they go towards those goals. So a lot of times you have the medical professionals, you have the doctors, the nurses, you have counselors or therapists, but that health coach brings the piece that puts it all together and really helps to embrace that whole person and supporting them with what it is they want to do to move forward towards those health and wellness goals. And so the value is they might come in with pre-diabetes. They might come in with diabetes. They might come in with high cholesterol. They might come in with high blood pressure. They might come in just stressed out and not able to sleep. Mm-hmm. And so the value is the coach can support them through several meetings and addressing action steps, long-term goals to get them to the place where they're living, like I say, equitable wellness. They're in a place of wellness. They're in a place where they're embracing lifestyle changes that they might not have considered before, right? And so that's the gift. That's the value, is giving a new perspective, a new opportunity to support that whole person. And then the outcomes would be better disease management or prevention, being able to sleep better, better stress management, maybe, they're able to take their medication, more consistently. So there's a lot of great stuff that comes from the opportunity to be able to offer health coaching in these different areas, whether it's community-based, whether it's just organizations that cater to a specific audience. I like, this is called the evolution of health coaching. And when I do speak, I often share with people that you are definitely the trailblazer when it comes to health and wellness coaching. And so when we connected with the Prime Care, and how they're going to use health coaching to reach their patients that are a part of home health care. So that's innovative, right? That's getting outside the box of having someone come into a doctor's office, but someone's already visiting the person in their home. So it's that innovation. It's that connecting. So it's, there's so many ways we can go. And I think you're right. We just have to choose which way do you want to go. Right now, I'm trying to hone in and figure out which way do I want to go, because there are so many options and there's so many opportunities that are untapped. So how do we tap more into the groups that are already out there, the organizations that are already out there, and saying, in addition to what you're already doing, let's add this. That's the value.
Yeah. It's just, I swear, I get 2 to 3 new opportunities, ways to implement it every week. Like someone introduced to me last week, the one that is still at the top of my mind is home care or homes that are set up for veterans that are aging, and adding health coaches to those homes.
Mm-hmm.
And, I think to keep up moving, to see how we want to be able to move with them. Another
Mm-hmm.
population that I don't think people tap into, and I get asked over and over again, can you just send a health coach here, is senior, right? And we just have them talk to this population about care, about not just activities of daily living, but behavioral change.
Mm-hmm.
Although these people are seniors, you know, people well over 70, they still want to be able to be active. These people still want to exercise daily. They still want to know how to cook their greens properly. These are individuals that still want that information. But
Yep.
again, this is a group that gets marginalized. But there are senior homes in every community.
Mm-hmm.
Every community in America has access to senior care. And so they will even Zoom you in. They will even Zoom call you in for their 200 plus residents or whatever, you guys.
Mm-hmm.
So there's so much that can be done in this industry, and just not enough people who are stopping long enough to look at this and say, this is how I can make a difference, right?
Mm-hmm.
And even in those homes for those veterans, these are empty nesters. These are individuals that are empty nesters that are like, well, I have a 5-bedroom home. 3 of them can come live with me. I only use 2 of the rooms. One is my room and one is the office. 3 veterans can come age out here, and the government pays for all their meals and your rent. It just, there's so much that we can do in terms of helping people live well. These are people that want to live a long time, right?
Mm-hmm.
They're although they're aging, we're living a lot longer these days. People are
Mm-hmm.
working a lot longer,
Mm-hmm.
and they may not be able to think about their well-being until they hit a certain age. And that's
Mm-hmm.
happening a lot these days. And so so we've talked a little bit about value-based care. We've talked a little bit about community-based organizations. I want to take some time now to talk to, let me think, how do I want to put this? Those individuals that are out there that are thinking about doing this, but they don't know which way they want to go with it, right? You know, are, I want you to talk a little bit about some ways that you've plugged yourself into community, ways that you give out information, especially ways recently that you've been able to do that, and how it was received.
Um, Again, I think just share. So that networking is so important, making connections outside the box. And then also, I have had the pleasure, as you mentioned, of teaching at multiple um, national board approved health coaching programs. And first being Legacy, um, second through the VA, third through Indian Health Services. I've also
Mhm.
taught with the Inclusive Health Coaching School. And so each of these opportunities gave me the opportunity to be exposed to new and different and groups of people, different groups of people. And so even as we went to New Mexico last year, and
Mhm.
really had an amazing time, I became aware, self-aware of the cultural awareness that I needed to know, even about Native Americans and Pacific Hawaiianers, right? And
Mhm.
so it's getting involved and then see what lights you up. So
Mhm.
that's what Leslie does. If
Yeah.
it doesn't
Yeah.
light me up, then I'm not going to do it anymore.
Right.
But the more I get out there and connect and it lights me up, I'm like, oh, this is it. I want more. I want to connect more. I want to create more opportunities to connect with this community group, to connect with this um, population. And so I think the biggest thing is just get out your box.
Mm-hmm.
Get out of your box. And that's a part of cultural humility. Getting out of the box, learning, having relationship, connecting, and being able to say, huh, this feels good. This fits, right? I want to serve. I want to be able to be available to this group of people. It's funny how you were speaking on, there's so many, you think about new areas. The other morning I was doing some things and I thought about someone that I'm very close to in Delaware, and she's executive director for a teen pregnancy school. And it like dawned on me, like, we got all this stuff with maternal health, right? Need. And I was like, I should connect with her because I'm confident they don't have coaches there. They do a lot for those girls and they really support them. It's an amazing community organization. But how much more could coaching support those young ladies who are still just trying to learn about health, period, but how to embrace taking care of themselves while they are expecting, what to expect, as they move into motherhood, the stress management, the, growing and maturing, right? There's a lot that comes with that. And so that light bulb went off. So I appreciate you saying, like, I'm always thinking of things, because that light bulb went off and I was like, that's not necessarily a population that I was like, but when that light bulb went off, I could see how coaching could so support and what that would do for the numbers that we have in terms of what's going on with child death. Like, there's so much that needs to be done in that area. Coaching fits. And so I think it's time to dream. What does it look like for you?
Yeah.
And know that we don't have to be in the box.
Yeah. Yeah. I like that. And I found that a lot of these organizations are waiting for someone to bring fresh ideas and a fresh way of doing things, a fresh approach to different things. And just like the young ladies that you mentioned, the teen maternal health, that's a population that gets marginalized. Like, people, ooh, I don't want anything to do with that. They're like, ooh, I wouldn't even know how to coach her. Like, I have so many questions, right? And they get shunned, almost like individuals with disabilities. People are sometimes a little gun shy about, how can I help? Do I need to be specifically trained? And coaching conversations definitely take specific training, but you can still learn it and be able to help people with disabilities, be able to help people who are of the senior population or adolescents, or, those are still people who need health and well-being, and physical health and well-being, right? And they are still people who are interested in it. So we have to, like you said, start to unbox, and dream a little bit. Who do I want? If I could lead to the planet, what would it be? How would I serve? Now I want to kind of shift gears a little bit, because this is a platform to kind of bring disparities to the forefront. And I want to speak now to people who are non-marginalized. There's not that many non-marginalized, non-POCs, right? I want to take an opportunity, because a lot of those individuals are coaches. Some of those individuals are coaches. And I want to take a little bit of time and have you speak on some of the different attributes that are important to have when you are coaching marginalized or POCs or even men, right? What do you feel like are some amazing attributes that a coach should have so that they do carry that sense of cultural humility and they are able to really unbox the way that they think and be able to help other people? What are those attributes?
Well, as you were talking, Angela, I was thinking health coaching skills and qualities are multicultural. They cross. So if you're going to be an active listener, which is the main thing as a health coach, that goes along no matter who you sit down with. And so being an active listener, holding space for your clients or your patients. So not being quick to try to fix them or solve the problem, but just holding space for what it is their story is and where they want to go with it. Right. So there's those coaching qualities and skills that will work. And the biggest thing is being present, holding space, be an active listener, ask the powerful questions, be curious, right? Be curious about what their story is and what it is they want to do to move forward. So whether you're coaching, and this works for everybody, right? So being able to use those coaching qualities and skills is what allows you to really show up to show that person, I'm here for you. Mm-hmm. But it's when we bring our own coaching biases and our own biases, it ain't got to be coaching biases, but our own biases into the room, into the conversation, that we do a disjustice. Mm-hmm. So hearing their story allows us to give something to coach. If we make an assumption about what their story is or what their issue is because they come into you and their doctors told them that their BMI is obesity, obese, and you start to go through, oh, I can help them this with a meal plan, with an exercise program, etc. And that might not be their focus. Their focus might be, I need to make some changes in my home. Yeah. And then you putting your own bias aside that says, well, how's that going to help you with this? But hearing their story, right? It might be they don't have access to gardens and fresh fruits, and they don't feel safe walking around their neighborhood. So being open to hear their story is how we understand what are the social, systemic, and structural determinants of health that they might be facing. What are the cultural beliefs that they may have adapted or adopted, or that just they might do unconsciously, right? Subconsciously. So being able to really listen is probably the greatest gift that we can give. And it's foundational for health coaching. So, and that is, it crosses, that does not have any bearing in terms of whether or not I'm sitting in front of a person who is disabled, whether or not I'm sitting in front of a person, the LGBTQ community, whether I'm sitting in front of a person who's Black, white, Spanish, Indian, Asian, it doesn't matter. Listening is the same regardless.
And having the skill. Absolutely. It's so important. So for those of you who have any questions for Leslie about the topics that we're covering today, make sure you go ahead and put those in the comments. I always forget to ask that, but I'm starting to remember it earlier now so that we don't go over time. Now that we've covered those different things, cultural humility, I'll talk a little bit about DEI, right? And where DEI fitting in the landscape of healthcare. Now, I know there are some there's some states that have pushed DEI and said it's going more towards something that's illegal.
Mm-hmm.
It's not something some states are going to continue.
Mm-hmm.
But I do want to talk about, for those who don't understand diversity, equity, and inclusion, if you could give a brief definition of that, and then talk about a little bit about why you feel like it's important in healthcare.
Yeah. So diversity, equity, and inclusion. I pause because it is something that people are like, oh, it's a buzz, it's buzz, right? And it's a buzz thing that's going out. It's going out the door. And that kind of makes the hair on the back of my neck stand up, because in healthcare, we cannot afford to dismiss diversity, equity, inclusion, access, and belonging, all of it. We need it all. And that's why in the US, I think we fail so much in healthcare, is because we're not making, again, it's not cookie cutter, right? And so seeing a doctor, I saw this meme the other day that says, if your doctor doesn't ask you about your lifestyle, but wants to tell you what to take, they're not a doctor, they're a drug pusher. And so diversity, equity, inclusion says, let's talk about what makes you you. Let's talk about, and let's bring people to the table to make decisions and have conversations, stakeholders that are diverse, that embrace inclusivity, and that believe in the power of equity. So Dr. Phil mentioned last week, having equitable wellness it doesn't mean we give everybody access to the same thing, because everybody could be on different levels, but it's making sure that step is different sizes that brings everyone to the same level. That's the equity. That's the health equity we're looking for. Our marginalized communities, there is a huge disparity in chronic diseases, right? There's a huge disparity in terms of even access to good health care. And so healthcare cannot afford to push DEI, A, B aside. And as health coaches, I'm excited because NBHWC has now added a competency that includes cultural humility, which is a big part of DEI. And so being able to embrace diversity, equity, inclusion, access, and belonging in our healthcare system allows us to provide an equitable opportunity for all of us to live well and to have lives, that are healthy, whole, and happy, right? And so I think that's the other reason, like, my passion is getting stronger around this area, because it's so necessary. Like, for such a time as this, there needs to be an army who's ready to rise up and say, not on my watch.
Yeah.
We have to embrace this. We have to make sure that our coaches, our healthcare providers, our therapists are diverse in race and culture and social economic status, right? They have to be diverse. They have to be inclusive. Health coaching is not just for the elite. It might have started that way. And I read an article earlier this week, talking about coaching and how expensive it is. Okay, well, how do we reach the people that can't afford it? And are we already sending a message to them that says, this is not for you? Well, that's when you get a Leslie. That's when you get a Dr. Kudger that says, this is for you. How can I get you more involved? How can we build your insurance? How can we get grants that support the community-based organizations to provide this service? So I'm not talking about coaches doing stuff for free. I'm not talking about that, because this is a profession, right? That's why I got my national board certification. This is a profession. but being able to reach more people with this gift is absolutely essential. And to me, that's what the diversity, equity, inclusion, access, and belonging does for health coaching. It makes it available for everyone.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. I love it. I love it. And when I think of DEI, much like you, I put it with whole health. How whole people, whole care. Like how do you do that in a place like America, right?
Mhm.
Without DEI, where we are blessed to have so many amazing uh, cultures in our country,
Mhm.
and how do you do that without DEI? How are you equitable, you know, in terms of the care of a person? How do you encompass whole health and well-being without DEI? You know,
Right.
um, and then to rule it illegal makes me want to pull my brakes out.
Yeah.
To rule it illegal, I'm like, what are we doing? Where are we living?
It's like this is going backwards. This is not
Oh,
forward thinking, right? Yeah.
like right. And so it's important, I think, to have these kinds of conversations because sometimes it can be challenging, you know. And that's why cultural humility is so important. I think one of the viewers said it best. She was saying, let me see if I can find her comment. It was way earlier. She was saying it's about um, looking at how your own colors how you see
Mm,
everything else, right?
yes.
And then understanding, okay, here's why I think the way I think, and then
Yes.
understanding that that can totally not apply to anyone else because they have their own cultures and ways and things. And so,
Yeah.
it's just
That's the
been,
self-reflection and the self-awareness that allows us to self-manage. So I often say, Dr. Kudger, my theme for my business is me first every day, unapologetically. And
yep.
that's in regards to my self-care and my own personal health and wellness. But it also stands with cultural humility. It has to start with me first every day, unapologetically. And so you mentioned, having conversations like this, but it also allows us to go deeper because we need more people at the tables where decisions are being made that look like and represent diverse communities so that decisions aren't being made by a group of people who don't even look like what America looks like.
Mm-hmm.
So you mentioned me serving on the DEI Commission for the National Board of Health and Wellness Coaching. That was my way of sitting at the table where things were happening. So becoming that stakeholder, becoming that person who is willing to carry the mantle and champion for the fact that diversity, equity, inclusion, cultural humility, they're absolutely essential to
Yeah.
the well-being of everyone.
Yeah.
So,
I love
yeah.
it, love it, love it. I love it. So, for those of you who have questions for Les, make sure you put them down in the comments. And so, diverse for equality and not for money. And Janine says, absolutely awesome. So, for those of you who have questions, let us know in the comments because there's a lot I think that we could unpack here. And I think we've done great with our time. So, let me know if you have any questions for Leslie. And then, for those of you who are interested in enrolling in the next cohort, our next cohort is going to start on August the 8th. All
Mhm.
right. So that is 8. Right. And for those of you who are aware or are not aware, that is also the date for the Lionsgate portal. And so that's a very, very important date. And that energy will last from 8/8 through probably about 11/11 when there's another kind of influx of energy on that. But the beautiful thing is 8/8 and then the year totals up to an 8 as well. So that's an 888 day for those of you who want to join us. So if you're interested in enrolling or you want information about a scholarship, if you have registered for this live stream, your name automatically is entered for one full scholarship. That drawing happens each month here at Legacy so that we can make sure we get our diverse numbers up in health coaches. All right. Heather says, is the need for health coaches a global need? How do we find out about global possibilities? Ooh, Heather's speaking my language, girl. Heather, Miss Smart, I like you.
Yeah. Well, there is definitely a global need. And we have been fortunate, Dr. Cudger, to have students who've come through Legacy take coaching to Tanzania, Australia,
New Zealand, Germany,
yes.
parts of Africa, Nigeria. So yeah.
Coaching can go wherever you go.
And I can tell you without giving away too much information, I can tell you some of the things those graduates work on outside of the US. They work on, and even Mexico. I had someone who was a recent graduate that came here, and she's looking to get help with setting up some form of a satellite campus. And so these individuals look at extending their knowledge. Some of them look at it through direct coaching, through direct retreats, coaching, giving out information in the communities or the cultures where they are. And then some of them have an academic approach. And so they might take this information and say, well, I'm going to take this to the University of Rwanda, and I'm going to see what they say about implementing this in their medical school. So they have big ideas. And so every culture is very, very different. And so you want to definitely make sure that wherever you're taking this internationally, that you understand the healthcare landscape, right? Because it's very different outside of the US. Every country is a little bit different. And that's one of the things you have to be aware of. The beautiful thing is when you finish a school like Legacy that is approved by the NBHWC, it does cover you internationally. That's the beautiful thing. So you can be a graduate and then you can go anywhere in the world and use this. So a lot of people take this route when they're looking for both financial freedom. They take this route when they're looking for time and location freedom. And so it's definitely something, if you haven't looked at, you could definitely begin to do that. The other thing, Heather, before we go to the other questions, the other thing that I'll say is people are finding it in some cases easier to implement in cultures who have embraced holistic health and wellness as a mainstay, who have embraced whole health as a mainstay. So they're finding it a little less, getting a lot less pushback from those cultures that do this anyway. And so I hope that answers your question. So let us know if you need anything else. Yes, Janine, that class starts on 8/8/8, very divine day. All right, Heather, let us know if you need anything. Good afternoon, Lawanda. Thank you for joining us, Miss Keys. Thank you for being here. Awesome. You're welcome, Miss Heather. All right, listen. So we are going to take this out. Leslie, it has been an absolute pleasure. Every time we get together, there is a wealth of information that that comes as a result of this. Heather says, when will the scholarship drawing be done this month? The scholarship drawing for this month has already happened. It happened on July 10th. And the next one is going to be on the live stream before 8/8. So whatever Wednesday is before 8/8 is when that's going to be, right? I'd have to look at a calendar to tell you that. But it's going to be before the next class, if that makes sense. Next class starts on 8/8. There are partial scholarships available as well. So for those of you who say, well, that one scholarship is going to only be for one person, and there's hundreds of people whose names go into that drawing. And I try to keep it fair by saying you got to be present to win, but we still want to make sure people get an equal opportunity to win that scholarship. So if you're someone who knows that this is your path and you want to talk about different payment plans, you want to talk about the partial scholarships that are available to you, you can text enroll to this number, and then we'll make sure you get that information. Leslie. Hey, Mama Francis, before we go. Hey, Francis. You're the best, Francis. I don't care what anybody says. All right. All right. Okay. So let's go ahead, Leslie. Any final words for everyone who's hanging out and listening today?
Yeah, I would say health coaching is definitely a gift. And so whether you're listening to this and you're like, I think I could become a health coach, Legacy is a great place to land. In addition to that, maybe you're saying, I don't want to become a health coach, but I need a health coach, right? So this is also an opportunity to make coaching available. So it's an opportunity to help people understand what health coaching is, why we need it, why it's a gift. And it's also an opportunity to make it available. And so Legacy actually does not do coaching. However, as Dr. Cudger has highlighted, so many of the coaches who have been through Legacy, such as Shawana, who I had the pleasure of teaching, Dr. Natasha Bruley, Chef B, who was my classmate, and Dr. Philip Halstead, who I also had the pleasure of teaching. And Dr. Halstead was the first person I recruited to come to Legacy. Connect with us, and myself, connect with us, because we do have coaching businesses. And even if you're not a good fit for us, we can refer you. I have had the pleasure of teaching probably up to almost 1,000 students now. So I know a lot of health coaches.
For the VA, it was way more, right? That's just for Legacy, right?
Well, between Legacy and the other programs, yeah. Almost I would say almost 1,000. And so I know a lot of coaches, and I know a lot of diverse coaches. And in serving with NBHWC, you can go to their website. There's a directory. So even if you're looking for a coach, get one.
Absolutely. Yep. Love it. Love it. Last question. Do you accept grants and contributions for scholarships? We do. So there are organizations that pay for individuals to come to the school. There are also individuals, believe it or not, who reach out and pay for other people. So they may not want to be the coach in their family, but they may know of someone who's an excellent fit. And so they'll reach out and grant that person the opportunity to do so. We have had also unique situations where one person may start out and they purchased the program and they appointed someone else in their family to go back to school for this, and they have a seat in class as well. So yes, we do. So there are several different kinds of situations where other people grant the opportunity to others to be able to go to school. But you can text enroll to this as well. And then there are a lot of organizations that reach out to see if they can either do a class on their own or if they send appointed employees, people they've selected back through a program so that they can bolster their organization. That was part of the conversation we had earlier, Leslie, that while we have a lot of graduates and people, when they don't step out as prominently, these organizations say, well, we need someone now. We need someone internally. And so they train on their own. They train their employees to do so. So glad. Listen, time's up, you guys. Thank you so much for being here, Leslie. And I look forward to seeing so much more from you. And I know everybody else will too. All right, you guys. Have a beautiful day. And thank you again, Leslie.
Thank you, Dr. Cudger.